Excellent, nice. Okay, so first of all, who here in the audience was at the UX Australia? Excellent, that's a very low number. Yeah. Is anybody here from Google? No. Is anybody here called Hendrik Müller? No. Because that would be really embarrassing. He was on the guest list now, but holy shit, if he turns out, then I'm really screwed. So, alright, so what I do is I do the first Redux talk. I have hardly practiced this, so please bear with me if I kind of stumble and fall. This was about a presentation, I think it was half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that, by a Google guy. And so you go, okay, this is a Google guy, I better go there, right? So I went, and it was actually a really practical session. There were about 170 people in the room, and the first thing the guy did was he said, there's a link, showed it on the screen, that goes to a survey, and you guys just fill out that survey. We're like, okay, this is a bit weird. So we went, filled out the survey, and what we didn't know was that there were actually two versions of that survey. And he filled out that survey so that he could show later in his talk how certain biases in a survey can produce different results. And the greatest thing was every single theory he had was actually later shown to be true in his sample size with our audience. So I thought it was a really gutsy move. If you ever want to be really cool at a UX Australia conference, you better do the same thing. Right? Okay, so Hendrik Müller. Now the other thing is, what you should know, it seems that people at Google Australia, at least Google Australia, are not allowed to put their slides online. So if you want to have all those notes present, you better type really fast. And that's what I did. But there are a couple of points where I actually failed to type fast enough, and just bear with me on that one, okay? All right. Now, I'm not sure if you've been warned, this will be a bit of an interactive session. Let's start with what makes a good survey, right? There are basically three things that make a good survey. First of all, it has to be valid. So you have to have a clear idea what you want to measure, and then that survey should probably measure it. Now that's easy to say and really hard to do, right? So that's where the thinking comes in. The second thing, it has to be reliable. Reliable in a survey means if you ask a different crowd the same type of question, you should get the same result, right? And the third one is that it's actionable. So just ask in surveys, don't ask these kind of airy-fairy things around stuff that you can't do anything about. What's the point, really? You want to keep the survey short and succinct, therefore you just ask the questions about stuff that you can actually do something about. All right, now, the whole talk, in the beginning he showed that slide, and I thought, holy shit, this will be a long talk. But then he actually said, no, I'm just talking about one thing here. And I thought, that's a good talk. I like that. You know, just scare people first and then go into the details. That's great. All right. So what he basically said was, if you design a survey, you have to be aware that the way that you pose your questions can put a bias on the answers. And you either ask those questions then in a smarter way, or you have to be aware of the bias that you're causing, so that when you actually analyze the results, that you can skew them then in one way or another. These are the 7 biases, and we will now go through them and see whether you guys can kind of pick them a little bit, all right? Okay, so, as I said, he showed different people in the room, different surveys, and luckily I typed fast enough to write down most of them. Okay, so the first question of the first version of the survey was, how would you characterize yourself? And then there were a whole bunch of quite long options, and one option at the bottom that said, I don't know. And the other part of the room got the same question, but got very short answers and no I don't know option to answer. Now, what I want you guys to tell me is which one, the left or the right one, produces a bias that you should be aware of. Now, I want you to, now, in the next 5 seconds, put your arm either this way or that way. Is the instruction clear?
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. And point at the one that produces a bias. Now, that's being a smart ass, that doesn't count, so. This way? Okay, awesome, good, that's good, I'll take that back. So you guys say that this one takes the bias, you say that that one takes the bias? Alright, let's see. Drum roll. Ooh, okay, most of the people are right. The reason for it is a principle called satisficing. People don't want to read through all those options because they are so long. No one wants to do a lot of work, especially not in an unpaid survey. Which basically means that people will just read the first one, will go, yeah, it's kind of alright, and then they click it, right? Or they say, oh, this is all lottery. Oh wait, there's I don't know, excellent, and then they click that. Whereas over here, they actually read through the whole thing and then go, actually option 2 is probably the one that I'm most likely to be part of. Okay? First one. Next one. Okay. Overall, how satisfied or dissatisfied are you with your current smartphone? And then the scale of options is 1 for very dissatisfied, and then over to 7 very satisfied. Whereas the second version of that survey was indicate how much you agree with this statement. Overall, I am satisfied with my current smartphone, and then once again the same scale. So the scale then was from 1 a little bit satisfied to 7 very, very satisfied. Once again, same action. Which one is the survey question that produces the bias? Yeah, okay, yeah, okay, and then the last ones are kicking in, following the herd, yeah, okay, good, perfect, all right, let's have a look. This one's the bias, very good, I think the majority got that right. The problem here is that when you give a statement to a person, people usually kind of agree with you. All right? They might not agree with you wholeheartedly, but they're more likely to agree with you than not. And therefore, there's a bias to that. So at that point in time, rather ask it in a way that doesn't give them the option to agree with you. Next one. All right. At this point, we had one version of the survey that asked one question with several options to it. What do you like about your smartphone? Screen size, apps, and camera. And the second question asked, in your own words, describe what you like about your smartphone. So basically asking about the same thing. The other version of the survey asked the same stuff, only the other way around. So I gave you the open answer field first and then the option. Which one was the one that produced the bias? Okay, some changes of heart, that's good. Not everybody's participating, that's bad. Anybody else? No? Okay, so what happened? The bias here is on that side. And that's because when you give people options, they read through those options, make their choices, and then you give them, okay, and by the way, what do you think? And they go, oh, well, I just filled out those options. Probably kind of like that, right? And then basically people just regurgitate what they read before. On this one here, you force them to give their answer first, and then you give them an easy way out. All right? And that means that here, it's unbiased, and over there, people will just regurgitate the same thing. How are we going with time?
3 minutes.
Oh, all right. Good. Next one. You ask them for the email address, and then you ask, where do you use your smartphone? At work, on the bus, or on the toilet? The next one was, hello, anonymous participant. Where do you use your smartphone? Same options. Which one produces the bias? Okay, and that one, that's very correct. Excellent, that's social desirability. People just don't want to admit when they do something that's a little bit weird. Although, who here hasn't used the smartphone at all? Obviously, right? But the point is, it actually does make a strong difference in the survey whether you're asking for the name or not, in whether they're being honest about the answers. Now, this one's a bit embarrassing. So this is where I just couldn't keep up. It was just too fast, and I was very tired, and it was dark in the room. Okay, so the only thing that I got from this was that if you have unipolar questions, so how useful is a feature, and it's from not at all useful to very useful, you take a 5-point scale. But if you have a scale in your answers, for example, from very angry to very happy, so you have 2 sides of a spectrum, then you use the 7-point scale. Still useful, right? Just has nothing to do with bias. All right, you're welcome. Okay, we're almost there. Next one, think about how you used your phone over the last week. Which of the following shortcomings of your phone prevents you from using it more often? And then there are a couple of characteristics of a phone. The other one says, which of the following new features would make you use your phone more often? And then the same options. Which one produces the bias? Oh, very good, yep, the crowd is right. Okay, the problem here is it's an absolute hypothetical. And when it comes to hypothetical, everybody goes, oh yeah, I love that, I love that, I love that. But when you actually make them think about their day and go, what does really make a difference? The options that you cross out are a lot less. Okay? And the last one, a beautiful Queensland beach. How would you rate beaches in Queensland? 1, horrible, to 7, beautiful. The other one has no image. How would you rate beaches in Queensland? Which one do you think produces the bias? Very good. I think the room learned something tonight. Okay, so obviously any additional information that you put into a survey about a question you ask later will definitely put a bias on it. Obviously I made it quite extreme here, but it could also just be a little text saying, hey, did you by the way know that the new LG G2 was voted the best consumer product in the world ever? By the way, how do you find the LG G2? Yeah, obviously, right? That makes sense. So that's pretty much all I have. That was the whole talk in, I think, 10 minutes or less, something like that.
Yeah, you got 30 seconds, man.
Any questions? I can't answer them anyway. That's all I heard, so that's fine. All right, thank you.